Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Become a Villain in Highschool DXD Part 13. Before we start, please go support RageRevan for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Chapter 37. Hopeful times. The attack on Asgard was devastating to say the least. The entire divine faction was wiped out in mere hours, with all the Asgardian gods dead, wiped out by the droid faction and their leader Issei. He was now seen as the traitor in the faction leaders' eyes, including those from the Shinto pantheon sadly. His actions against their territories and the Yokai territories are the reason why Yasaka and many other Yokai are either captured or dead. There was chaos and fear in the factions. People were rioting and destroying structures, blaming the faction leaders for turning the faction pillar against them and wiping them out. They feared that Issei would come after their lives next, and there was nothing they could do to stop him in any way. They also blamed the DXD team as well, and many sub-factions were formed in the remaining factions of the alliance. As for the leaders, things were not better. Michael and the other leaders were not in the right spot. Athena was revealed to be a traitor, which broke Zeus completely since Athena was his daughter. Additionally, all those that were working with Issei were seen when the group teleported back to the Death Star's interiors. The devils were shocked and horrified that all four half-Satans were working with Issei and the droid faction. This included Sakvara Agares, Laisha Astaroth and even Miyuki Citri. They were all on Issei's side. Sona and her peerage was the most fearful and horrified by this revelation. Coupled with Ria's and the Haidu couple's death, this was a lot to take in, especially for Surziches. Many have turned against them and betrayed them completely. Additionally, Surziches and Falbium recognized the Malabranch's leader Malakota, and they could see that Issei had used Yasaka and several others as hosts for the Malabranch, as he could see them being bounded and their power being absorbed. The other leaders were also horrified. The angels, or just Michael and Irina, the only survivors of the fall of heaven, were the ones that were devastated by the fact that Gabriel, along with Elizabeth and Marana, have betrayed them. Michael gritted his teeth in anger, blaming Issei for his actions of turning them against her. The fallen angels, or just Azazel and Shemhazai, saw Penemu and Akeno being Issei's hosts for power. He was using their magic power to control the superweapon Death Star. They not only hated Issei for his actions, but also despised Issei for wiping out Grigori and the fallen angel research. The Greek gods were fearful and livid at Issei. Fearful because of his power and livid because of his betrayal. Zeus was already hateful of Issei, but now blames him for turning his daughters against him. Additionally, he was not sure Artemis betrayed him like Athena, but he highly doubted she would side with him. Zeus did not have any contact with her, and he highly doubted whether she would have any care for him or not. Now the Shinto gods, Susanoo, Tsukiyomi and Amaterasu, along with Magari and Heroism, hated Issei for his actions, especially the Shinto trio, who saw Issei as a traitor to their homeland for turning on their gods, while Magari and Heroism who hated Issei for leading the destruction of the Yokai lands. Volkunu was devastated seeing her mother used as a host for powering up a weapon of mass destruction like the Death Star. Additionally, this was also experienced by the rest of the Shinto gods and Yokai remnants. Ilmenhold was fearful. Unlike the others that hated Issei, she knew what she had done, and if Issei were to collect her debt, she couldn't stop him even if she wanted to. Her demise seemed to be inevitable at this point. The DXD team had varied reactions. Most of them were despair and fear, as they knew one thing, that Issei would soon come for them. Some, like remnants of the former Gremory peerage, Bale peerage and Sona's peerage, all of them had anger in their eyes. But Sona herself was fearful. The most livid were the remnants of Team Slashdog. The only ones that were saddened were Shiva and Indra. They never hated the boy, but Issei thinks they are his enemies. They knew that their chances of talking to him are low, but they still had to try. Their only hope for survival was to contact Issei as soon as possible. They were starting to see Issei and Malak's point of view. They wondered that they could even talk to him or not. The next day, Haidu residence, 9:30 a.m. Issei had woken up from his sleep as he was the first to get up and get dressed. Just as he saw Artemis missing, he could hear her vomiting. Rushing inside, he saw her puking once again. He pats her back to calm her down, while speaking, "It's okay. I am here." Soon enough, she stopped puking and looked at Issei and muttered, "I am sorry. Don't be, just relax and I'll get you some water, drink it up." Artemis looked at him and nodded. Issei couldn't wait to tell the exciting news to his friends as he helped her up, with Artemis responding, "I am a goddess of hunt, I'll be fine." Issei helped his mate move, while Artemis reluctantly accepted this. She knew that Issei was a stubborn person, and not a lot of things will change about him. She internally sighed, knowing his protective nature. All dragons were like that if anything. Athena also had joined in helping Artemis and Issei as she headed downstairs for breakfast. They all headed downstairs, as Artemis sat on the table, with Athena sitting beside her and helping her up. "Say Artie, what would you like to eat or drink?" Artemis looked at Athena and responded, "I would like a can of Diet Coke." Athena and Issei became wide-eyed upon hearing this, as Athena glared at Issei. His addiction of Diet Coke is why Artemis also have a craving for it, while Issei vehemently denied it as he spoke. "It is not my fault she is like that." Issei looked at Artemis and responded, I know you are a goddess, but Diet Coke is not good for children, maybe I could get you some orange juice, sounds good. But. Artemis sighed and responded, fine. Artemis soon walked inside to get a glass of orange juice. Athena walked towards him and spoke with a sigh, usually cravings are oftentimes related to the parents' favorites and some other things, although Diet Coke is not common, I would advise against letting her have a drink of what you usually do, it could cause complications for the birth. I know. I was planning to tone down my consumption of that drink anyway. Issei spoke with a sigh as he continued, let's see what we can do, for now I will go help her in getting orange juice. Speaking of which, where are the rest of the girls? Athena asked, to which Issei responded, they are resting, I think they should be up in a few minutes. Issei walked inside, where he saw Artemis trying her best to take the orange juice from the fridge, he soon walked ahead and spoke, let me. Issei, don't, I can take care of this. Artemis spoke with an assuring tone, as she managed to crouch down to get her glass as she soon poured it, as Issei watched over her, making sure she is okay. His dragon instincts make him even more overprotective, as he made sure she is alright. Once they came out, they saw that all the girls had arrived with Nyx greeting the two, morning, Artie, Ice. Morning girls. How was your sleep? Issei asked his fellow allies in the droid faction, as Nyx spoke for everyone, it was pretty good. Issei, why you did not sleep with us tonight? Well, it was because I got to know some surprising news from Artemis yesterday. Issei looked at Artemis as she stepped forward and spoke with a blush. I am pregnant, everyone. There was nothing but pin-drop silence at the table, as a few moments later soon enough. The girls started to cheer and congratulate Issei and Artemis, as Nyx exclaimed with a cheerful smile, holy shit, congratulations Artie. Nyx, although was internally jealous that she was not the first to have Issei's child, as she had done it first. She was extremely happy for Issei and Artemis, after all that they have gone through, this was one of the happiest news they could have ever received. I am so happy for the two of you, Charlotte exclaimed with all of her happiness, she couldn't be any more happy that her harem sister and lover are both going to be parents, and Artemis is going to have the first child. Elizabeth wondered on how she was not pregnant like Artemis, since they both did the deed at the same time. Artemis soon settled down next to Issei and Athena, as Nyx then spoke, so Artie, who do you expect your child to be? A boy or a girl? Anyone, it matters not, I will love my child, regardless of what gender they are. Many smiled at Artemis's words, she has changed a lot in the past months. If this was old Artemis, then she would have immediately rejected or even felt repulsed of having a lover. But now, she was completely different. Well, let's have a party to celebrate, I mean you are becoming parents, right? Quinella exclaimed with happiness, as Issei responded, yep, but why a party? I mean, we should have a party when the child is born, in my opinion. Oh come on, Issei, we have been fighting against the factions for far too long. We need to have some fun, especially with you and Artie being parents. Nyx tried to convince Issei, as Issei looked at her and spoke with a smile, fine, we will have a party. Yay, finally a party will happen in our place, Quinella spoke with a cheerful tone, as she then asked her fellow allies, I wonder who else can we invite? We can probably bring in Malak and the generals, they should have some rest and enjoyment. Ingvild suggested, to which Nyx spoke, yeah that works, we can even bring in Lafolia and the RageRevan family. And don't forget about Hades and Persephone along with those from Hades's underworld. Valerie added her own words, to which Issei nodded, yep, we can do that. Those are the people we should primarily invite. Great, ladies, what do you say? Should we all go shopping? Athena spoke with a smile, to which the girls nodded, yeah, we should, and Miyuki has enough funds to buy us all the clothes. The best part is that all that money is coming from the supernatural races. Issei internally sighed in relief, he won't be having a dent in the wallet like last time, when the girls went on a shopping spree. Drake internally chuckled at this, however Issei thought of something, he wanted to make sure the child and mother are alright, as Issei spoke with a sigh, Artemis, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Yes, Issei. Go ahead. Artemis spoke with a genuine smile, as the girls looking at Issei wondering what he wanted, I was thinking about the child Artie. I fear that some people might desire to harm the child, and you know who I am talking about, right? Issei's words made Artemis realize what he was going to say. She knew exactly who would go after their child. She clenched her fists in anger, knowing that Olympus won't accept. Artemis knew of her twin's protective nature, and if he even thinks about harming their child, she was going to deal with him in the brutal manner. Even the other girls were protective of Artemis, especially Athena. They were not going to let their father come near Artemis or her unborn child, ever again. They knew the factions will find a way of eliminating Issei or his allies, and some may even come after his child to weaken him. Issei, let me tell you one thing, I am a goddess, and I am going to be a mother. If anyone even thinks about harming my little child, Artemis speaks with a growl while keeping her hand on her stomach. They will experience the full wrath of the goddess of the moon. I don't care if my enemy is even my father. I will fight till the very end. Protecting my child, and I will make sure my child survives no matter what happens. Artemis's words made some of the people shudder. The wrath of a goddess is something to fear. But the wrath of a goddess coupled with her being a mother is really terrifying. Issei looked at her and gave a smile. In that case, I have something to give you. Issei put a ring forward as he spoke. This is a specialized ring. Whenever you release your power or aura, or whenever you or your child is in danger. Please take it. Artemis looked at the ring. It was described to be a ring that had a white opal attached at the top of it. She then asked, is this an engagement ring? Sort of, since this ring was primarily designed for your protection. It's still in its prototype stage, and most of you all will be getting a ring each when the time is right. Okay. The girls who knew that Issei loved them knew that they will be getting their own rings. They blushed while being happy knowing that Issei loved them a lot, while Ingvild and Valerie seemed saddened, but they knew they have lost their chance a long time ago. Regardless, they were happy to be tolerable to Issei, and that was more than enough for them. Artemis was the most happiest. She was also the first that got a ring. She knew that Issei would protect them no matter what happens. She took the ring and wore it. As she looked at it while smiling, she twirled her hand, seeing that the ring suited them the most. The girls then started to discuss on how the party was to be developed before heading to shop. Scene change. Hades' domain, realm of the dead, 11:30 am. Hades and Persephone were having their breakfast along with their daughters, as Hades asked, so how was college, girls? Melano spoke with a smile, it has been good, soon enough, we will graduate. That is amazing, and from what Issei-chan is telling, the war will also soon be over. Persephone exclaimed with happiness, as Macaria added, you want him to visit Hades, right? Yeah, I am not going to deny it, he is like a son to me. The son I never had. I am not going to lie. Persephone spoke with a genuine smile, as Hades agreed to his wife's words. He also has started to see Issei as his own son. They were not related by blood, but they were related by bonds, and that was more than enough for her, as Hades spoke with a teasing grin, so are you not going to talk about Adonis? Persephone's eye twitched when she heard that name. She narrowed her eyes and grew a tick mark on her head as she clenched her fists in anger. She gave an angry grin towards Hades, who flinched with fear. We don't talk about Adonis, darling. Is that clear? Hades rapidly nodded his head in fear, not wanting to anger his wife. There are very few people that can scare the strongest of Greek gods, and one of them was Persephone, especially when she gets angry. Melano and Macaria were chuckling at their father's expression. They knew that only his wife can easily scare Hades. However, their happiness was short-lived when they sensed a presence. It seems like we have some unwanted guests. Hades spoke with a narrowed gaze. He was ready to head out to defend his family as Persephone grabbed her husband's hand. Stay safe, darling. Persephone spoke with a concerned tone as Hades spoke with a reassuring tone. I will be fine, only a few are a threat to my living. Persephone nodded with a smile as Hades soon went out with Melano speaking. Mom, call Issei. Don't worry hun, if things go bad, I have Ice-chan on speedial, he will come in a jiffy. Persephone spoke with an assuring smile. Scene change. Hades headed outside to be greeted by the faction leaders, or what remained of the faction leaders. The only ones absent were Shiva and Indra, who knew that fighting against Issei was pointless. So what can I do for you, faction leaders? Hades spoke with a smile, however internally he was fuming. He did not want any of the leaders to be at his place, especially after what they did to his adopted son Issei. Not to mention, they showed utter and sheer disregard for Issei, even after he was proven to be their savior. They did nothing but let him suffer, and they now have the audacity to ask his help. I want your help, Hades Dono. Serziches spoke with a respectful tone, however Hades had an idea on what exactly he had wanted as he looked at the former Grimoire heir with a serious look. What do you wish, Serziches? Hades looked at Serziches as Azazel walked forward and spoke. We desire access to Samel, Hades Dono. And why do you want access to Samel, Crow? Azazel flinched when Hades spoke in a cold tone, as he knew what exactly he wanted Samel for, although the abomination was dead, courtesy of being released from his torment by Issei. The mere fact they wanted his adoptive son dead showed how they never cared for Issei, and that made Hades angry, really angry. He had already seen Persephone die in front of his eyes, and he did not want to lose Issei too. Brother, we want Issei dead, especially after his betrayal towards the factions, him being responsible for the death of so many supernatural beings. Additionally, he has also turned many against us. My own daughters hate me for what he has done. Hades gritted his teeth. He was trying his best to control his anger. He took a breather to calm down, as Hades only asked one word. Why? The faction leaders were surprised by Hades's word as he spoke. Give me a good reason why should I help any of you. Why? Issei is slaughtering innocent people. He has already destroyed heaven, turned Gabriel and some of her angels against me. He even destroyed Asgard and wiped it out of civilization and turned it into nothingness. He turned many of the girls against us, even succeeded in turning the Satan descendants against the underworld. Hades could only internally scoff at the hypocrisy the faction leaders were showing towards the Greek god of the underworld as Hades shakes his head and speaks. Though fair reason, but not good enough for me to lend you Samuel, you will need to try harder to convince me. Hades's attempt was to push their buttons with Zeus angrily spoke, brother, are you going to defy the factions again? You have not been forgiven for your last actions. Please, we are asking for your help. No Zeus, I am not helping you in any way. Never again. Hades spoke coldly as he continued, the fact that you are trying to kill someone that was forced to fight for you shows volumes on how much you cared for him. The truth, none of you ever cared for him, even after the truth of his brother was revealed. Hades's words made the faction leaders present stunned, they wanted to deny, but Hades cuts them off. No, don't even deny it. This is a monster you created, and I am pretty sure if Issei and Crom did not expose Dai in any way, you idiots would have still believed Dai like a bunch of puppets. Just think about all the actions you have done to Issei in every way. Think about what could have happened if just for once, you swallowed your pride and released Nyx without any consequences or strings attached, none of this would have happened. Hades directed a glare at Zeus which caused him to flinch, while the other leaders were silent. Hades was right, all this could have been prevented right from the start. And as for the girls, you literally gave them to Issei just to appease him. That included you too Zeus, you gave your own bucking daughters to him. Just how bucked up is that? I can't even imagine doing to my own little girls. The faction leaders gritted their teeth in anger remembering that event as Zeus spoke angrily, it is all his fault had he not demanded. Will you shut up, you bucking man-child? Goodness Hades exclaimed with a frustrated sigh as he frowned on Zeus's attitude. He has always been arrogant and prideful as Hades spoke, don't pin the blame on others Zeus, own up to what you did. You bucked up and that is why Artemis and Athena turned on you. They even fell for him due to his kindness. He gave those girls a home, a place to stay and a life to live. He even let them do what they want giving them proper freedom, while if many of them stayed in their factions, they wouldn't even had that liberty. But none of you will realize that. You have blamed Dai for what you did and how much pain you have put Issei through. But nope, even now Issei is the bad guy, not you for what you did. Why? Because we are superior to that former human. Isn't that right? Hades spoke with a mocking tone, causing several leaders to glare at Hades. That is exactly why I am not helping any of you. In fact, I knew Issei was the leader of the droid faction this whole time. The leaders became pale at this revelation as Serziches spoke, that means, why you knew. Indeed, but I did not help Issei in any way. Yes, I knew he caused all those deaths, but I chose not to stop him anyway. Azazel then asked with dread and anger looking at Hades as he spoke, why? Why did you not warn us about him? Why should I? Give me a darn good reason why should I? Hades spoke angrily as he continued, he did so much for you, fought tooth and nail, and he was treated so coldly, so pathetically. If anything, be glad I did not help him in destroying you guys. But don't expect me to save you or support you in any way. You have brought this on yourself, faction leader. You bastard, you once again betrayed us. Serziches spoke angrily as power of destruction was released from his body as Hades was ready to fight. Even those from the underworld like Charon and Thanatos were ready to fight as Serziches shouted, I will make you pay, Hades. Hades was ready to defend himself, but Vines grabbed Serziches' legs and made him trip. Serziches regained his concentration as someone spoke from the shadows, don't even think about trying any funny business here, Gremory. I have Ice-chan on speedial, and you know what will happen if he comes here, right? The person who revealed herself from the shadows was a very angry Persephone, which startled everyone. They were shocked to see the goddess of the underworld alive and well. Zeus then asked with a shocked tone, Persephone, is that you? Yes Zeus, it's been a while, and it is not nice to meet any of you. Persephone spoke coldly causing Zeus to flinch, in his eyes, both his brother and Persephone have turned against him. If you attack my husband or the underworld, I will call Issei, and it will only take him a second to show up. Charon added his own words to Persephone. Lady Persephone is right, Lord Hades has already given him teleportation rights to this place. He can enter any time he wants, so I would advise you to leave this place. You are not welcome here. Indeed, if you want to pick a fight in this place, I will gladly call Issei, and soon enough, he and his droid faction would have come to this place in an instant. Just imagine not only fighting against us, but Issei, Malak, Vader, Grievous and the others all at once. They already outnumber you guys, and they will demolish you. Persephone spoke coldly and angrily causing the leaders to grit their teeth in anger as she finally shouted angrily. Now get the buck out of my house. The leaders were helpless. They had to find another way to defeat Issei. They had to find another way to gain access to Samuel. As Zeus angrily spoke, you two will regret this, we will find a way to kill Haidu once and for all. Persephone gritted her teeth with anger as the whole place was starting to have tremors. She was beyond livid as Issei was like a son to her. The leaders were on guard as they were ready to face her off. However, Hades kept a hand on her, making her a bit calm, as she could see Hades was thinking of something. Oh, I forgot to tell, during his travels Issei already managed to find a way to deal with Samuel and rid him of his torment. Finally giving him peace. Hades spoke with a mocking tone, making everyone minus those from the underworld realize that the only thing that could kill Issei was gone from this world. No. This is impossible. Michael spoke with horror, all hope of defeating Issei was gone, as Hades spoke with a grin, while you morons were celebrating with Dai, listening to his every command like dogs. Issei was out there helping people, he saved Samuel, finally giving the abomination the peace he deserves, he even brought my beloved Persephone back to me. He had helped many of you, yet he was treated with such garbage. Now get the buck out of my domain. Hades ended with an angered tone, as the leaders left the place dejected. They had to find another way to take down Issei, maybe they can use some of his women as a hostage. It was the only way they could think of. They teleported out of there so that they could plan something. Okay, with them out of this place, what should we do now, Lord Hades? Charon asked Hades as Thanatos added, we may need to increase security in this place. Yes, Thanatos, you are right, tell the Grim Reapers to do that. Thanatos nodded as Charon added, I will seal the gateway, only individuals you allow will gain access to the underworld. Hades agreed to this as he continued, this is something I should have done a while back. Anyways, Charon, keep the seal for a few days, since once this war is over, we can return things back to normal. Charon nodded in understanding as Persephone spoke. Darling. We should inform Issei about this. Hades nodded in agreement as he spoke, yes, we should. Hades was about to continue when he got a message on his phone, as Persephone asked, what's the matter? Hades was surprised at this as he looked at Persephone, a smile was on his face, making the goddess of springtime wonder what he was talking about. Issei is keeping a party tonight and he has invited all of us to his place. Persephone was surprised as she asked, why, what's the occasion? It is because Issei and Artemis are going to have their first child. Persephone was wide-eyed when she heard of this, however soon she beamed in joy when she heard of the good news as she exclaimed, I never knew, this is amazing, finally Ice-chan is going to receive some more happiness in his life, and with the war coming to a close, we can finally live a normal life. Persephone was elated beyond belief, she couldn't believe that things were becoming even better, it is no wonder Issei was keeping a party. Hades was equally happy, as Persephone spoke with a grin, we should let the girls know about this. Hades nodded as the couple went inside to tell the two girls the good news. Scene change. Time skip brought to you by Chibi Arcadia. Issei heading to this world. Haidu residence, 9 p.m. The guests have managed to reach the party, this even included Malak, Vader and Grievous, along with Kalani, who was dragged along with them to the party. Even Malakota was present along with the Lafolia family. The Hades family was also present, along with Chiron and Thanatos. Well, congratulations, Issei, now that you are becoming a father. Malak spoke with a tone of excitement, knowing that he is going to be an uncle soon. Thanks, guys. Plus once this is all over, we'll probably settle down. With the war coming close to an end, we should probably live our own lives normally. Issei spoke with a smile, as he continued, speaking of which, what are your future plans? I honestly don't know, both me and Kalani would be settling down, we can't have children due to us being literal droids, but Malak and Vader might. Grievous spoke with a shrug as they knew with him being a droid, there was nothing they could do about him. Regardless, Grievous then added, besides, I am not that keen on having children as of yet, and as for Kalani, he is more focused on his work, rather than raising a family. It's true. I prefer focusing on my calculations and work, rather than raising a family. What about you, Vader? Vader thought for a moment as he responded, can't be certain. Raising a family is something I am unfamiliar with, regardless, I doubt anyone would want to be with me, considering my deformed internal face. Oh, that can be fixed, Vader. Remind me once we are done with the war. Vader looked at him and nodded. Hades then added, fatherhood can be something that can be scary yet enjoyable, Issei. Trust me, I speak from experience. How so? Hades. Hades took a deep breath and spoke with a smile, I still remember centuries ago when Persephone was pregnant with my daughters Melano and Macaria, Issei. Let's just say I remember how Persephone was when she was pregnant, she acted completely different from the one you know. The reason is because hormones are pumped into a pregnant mother's body. So their personality and actions will only change even more. You need to handle her for the last few months of her pregnancy, which is when things will be getting tough for them. There is a chance that Artemis may say things to you that may seem hurtful, but know this, it is the hormones that are doing this. Artemis may have better control like Persephone did, but they will be harsh towards you, Issei. Hades recounted his own experience with Persephone centuries back with him nodding. Things will be getting tough, but he will protect himself regardless. He will also help Artemis in the tough times as he had an idea on how rough childbirth can get, especially with the symptoms getting worse. Anyway, I know you can handle it. If you are able to lead the brunt of the war, you should also be able to handle your mate's hormonal tendencies. Hades spoke with a smile, as Issei nodded. They continued to talk about what will come next. Meanwhile, the ladies have their own discussion on the children, as Persephone speaks. How are you doing, Artemis? I am fine, Persephone. Just having even more food cravings. Artemis mused, to which Athena added, yep, I had to literally stop her from continuing to have cola, she has been having a lot of cravings for that. I guess you are getting those cravings due to Issei's love for Diet Coke. Persephone spoke with a sigh as she responded, I have a feeling that your future child may like it. I see. Maybe, I should find an alternative for cola. Artemis spoke with a sigh, orange juice has been working so far for her, but she knew that she may need to try something else soon enough. Anyways, we should probably enjoy ourselves. Today is the day of our celebration, Ingvald mused, to which Artemis responded with a smile, yes, that would be amazing. Artemis and the girls headed to the bar counter, as Melano asked. So did you think of any names for the kid? Melano asked cheerfully, to which Artemis looked at her and spoke with a sly smile, not really, I don't even know whether my child is going to be a boy or a girl. Melano, calm down, we will soon see our future nephew or niece, it has only been a day since we have known Artemis was pregnant. So it would be months before any of us has any clue about having a child. Macaria spoke with a smile, causing Melano to pout, as Persephone chuckled at her daughter's banters. The girls kept continuing to have a conversation of their own, as Miyuki soon asked, I wonder why Aine did not come, does anyone know why? She is resting, she needed sleep after overtraining herself in magic, the girl reminds me of how you once were, Miyuki. Gondal spoke with a smile, as Miyuki rubbed the back of her head, embarrassed remembering her past even more. Gondal then spoke, but the day's highlights have to be Artemis being pregnant and Odin's death and aftermath, like you should have seen his face after I and Issei beat him to death. Gondal spoke with a chuckle as some of the guests were also laughing, knowing what Odin did to Gondal and how much he had that coming to him. I would have paid to see all Booker's expression of death and demise, you did a good job, Malakota, wiping everyone out. Malakota responded with a smile of her own, she had worn a completely different clothing, which was a white top that slants on her right shoulder, revealing her black bra strap, a pair of jeans, and 2 bracelets on her left wrist. Indeed, and the best part is, my majesty gave me and the Malabranch full control of the Death Star, with that we can wipe out entire factions like it is nothing, not even gods can survive what is to come to them. Malakota spoke with a smile of her own, as she added, the mere machine can wipe out entire civilizations if chose to be, but my lord does not desire that, he desires to only use this when needed, and I shall do as he wants me to. I see. Never thought a weapon would show some signs of emotions, especially devotion to their lord, especially when your initial purpose and intentions were to unleash complete destruction and annihilation, and your desire to fight against the current Longinus wielders. Malakota gave a smile to Quinella, who was the one who gave the words as she spoke, Lord Issei defeated me in a fair and square battle, and he was holding back. I made a promise to follow him without exception until the very end, if he does defeat him. And I see no reason to abandon him in any way. Villany did inform me about the battle, who knew you were able to push Issei, even in his balance breaker, causing him to use 2 Longinus, your strength is really something. Malakota had a red blush on her cheeks upon hearing the compliment as she spoke, thanks. I was designed to be powerful enough for the war. I am just happy that I am so useful to Lord Issei. Don't push yourself, Malakota, once this war is over, you and your Malabranch can finally settle down. If you want, you and Issei can spar often, but you needn't go for war or perform carnage. Nick spoke with a smile, as she added, we all have plans of settling down once the war ends, and even you can join if you'd like. Malakota looked at Nyx with an expression of surprise, all in her life, she was only treated as a weapon. Even her Malabranch were no exceptions, they were all treated as weapons, but this is the first time she was ever asked this. Even Issei never treated her as a weapon, but as a genuine person, she almost fell for him, but she was uncertain whether Issei thought the same of her. Persephone noticed this and internally sighed, she had a feeling that Malakota would soon fall for him, and it wouldn't be the first time this has happened. She wondered how many would fall for Issei at this point. However, her thoughts were changed when Nick suddenly spoke up. Speaking of which, what do you think would happen when we go after the Greek faction? Nyx's words made everyone look at her as she spoke, who wants dibs on beating down Zeus? I want to Nyx, oh I can't wait to see Zeus's expression when we come after him. Right sister? Athena nodded in agreement as she added, indeed, I am pretty sure father and the rest of his people are plotting something that would damage us, and with what Persephone spoke, they wanted to gain Samel, right? Yep, too bad Issei already gave that poor soul some well-deserved peace. And no one came for him, and the good thing was that Issei helped him achieve his well-deserved peace. Persephone spoke with a genuine smile as she remembered on what kind of a person Issei was. Despite what he was, Issei felt sympathy for Samuel and gave him true peace and finally put his soul to rest. His kindness and good nature is what drove the girls in his current harem to fall for him. This was something that was present in all of them, they all fell for Issei. I guess, so what are they going to do now? Ingvild asked with concern, to which Persephone shook her head and spoke, they may be performing a counterattack soon enough, but we will be ready, right? The girls in the group nodded in acceptance, no matter what, they will be ready for whatever comes for them and protect their loved ones at all costs. The boys, on the other hand, were having their own conversation, after which Malak had an idea. He puts down Mjolnir and announced, gathering everyone's attention, alright boys, whoever is able to pick the Mjolnir can use it in our next battle. Malak spoke with a grin, as everyone looked at the scene in interest. Issei shook his head and spoke, I'll pass, I will watch to see who else is worthy of wielding Mjolnir amongst us. Okay, what about you guys, want to give it a shot? Grievous walked forward and tried his best to raise the hammer as he struggled to lift it up, however the droid general failed to pick up Mjolnir. I guess, I am not worthy. Grievous spoke sadly as Vader soon walked forward and spoke, guess it is my turn. Vader also tried to do the same as he struggled to lift the hammer. Like Grievous, Vader was unable to move the hammer. The reason was that Malak had enchanted the hammer to make it much harder to wield. He wanted to see who was capable of handling the hammer, something which only Issei was able to pick up. I see. Vader spoke with a dejected tone as Hades walked forward and spoke, let me give it a shot, although I won't be battling in this war. Alright, go ahead. Hades tried to move the Mjolnir, he motioned it in a situation that it would be easier to move, and to many people's surprise it started to move. Persephone, Melino and Macaria cheered for their husband-father. Issei was also cheering for Hades as the hammer went up by a little bit, however it soon fell down with a thud as Hades spoke with a defeated sigh, I guess even I am not strong enough for this. Persephone walked to him and rubbed his back, come on darling, your performance was better than both Vader and Grievous, I think you will be worthy sometime in the future, K. Persephone spoke with a reassuring smile as Hades gave a smile of his own. Malak then spoke, do you ladies also want to give it a shot? Or are you too much of a chicken to not do this? The ladies fell for Malak's taunt as Nick spoke for the girls, oh it's on Malak. The girls also took their turns one by one on Mjolnir and had a good night, enjoying themselves for tonight. Unbeknownst to them, someone was spying on them. This was the remnants of Team Slashdog who wanted revenge, and they knew just how they can do it. Chapter 38. Dealing with the dog. Outside Highschool residence, 11:30 p.m. The house guests were unaware of the people that were spying on them, for now at least. The reason they were sent here was to observe the people of this household. The reason is that they wanted to find a weakness of the main resident of this place, and that was none other than Issei Haidu. They were remnants of Team Slashdog, comprising of Sei Taoju, Shigyu Nanaderu and Natsume Minagawa, along with the Himejima clan leader Suzaku Himejima. They all were spying on Issei, trying to find a weakness. Which they unfortunately did. Well, look at them, how much fun they are having, after being responsible for making everyone's lives in the supernatural world as miserable as possible. They will pay for this. Suzaku spoke with a hateful growl, she wanted to do nothing but burn Issei and his whole family down, they are the reason why Kaki and Tobio are dead. They are the reason why Lavinia is still in a comatose state, she only has a few days for survival, due to doctors putting full efforts in keeping her alive. Suzaku calmed down. Shigyun spoke with reason, she could understand why Suzaku hates them, she herself despises Issei for his betrayal, but is scared that Suzaku might end up barging in to harm Issei and his family, and this would ruin the mission they were on. How can I calm down, that bastard is the reason why Tobi-kun is dead, Suzaku exclaimed with tears falling from her eyes, she remembered the moment she was with him and the rest of her friends. She mentally cursed the hiatus in general for being the reason why her life is miserable. She first fell for Dai's lies which caused Malak and the droid faction to be born, she failed to notice the deception that the former Crescent Moon Dragon wielder had sprung, and she did harass Issei and look down upon him. But this caused her life to start falling apart. And now with their only hope to defeat the droid faction not only betraying them, but also being the mastermind behind everything. I know, what we have lost is something that can never be forgiven or forgotten. Natsume spoke sadly, remembering the death of Kaki Samejima and later Tobio Ikus. She also remembered why Issei refused to help them no matter what happened to either of them. They were her friends and loved ones, not his. This was a fact that he made very clear. But we need to deal with Haidu, right now he is a threat. He is willing to wipe us out before he does the deed. We must be the ones and we must strike at his most vulnerable. Natsume spoke seriously, yet there was a growing anger inside her heart. She remembered why Issei refused to help her in any way. She hated that, but she feared if something would happen if she opposed him. Back then, Issei killed Ajuka, one of the top 10 strongest beings in the world, like it was nothing and dared the other leaders to do something about it. She did not want to mess with someone of that power level, especially when he was with Nyx, the primordial goddess of darkness. She feared and hated Issei, but now the hatred of hers has been amplified. She detested Issei at this point. Our goal is to find Issei's weakness, without Samuel's poison to kill him. There is no surefire way to eliminate him. Our best option is to spy on his activities to see what he is trying to do. Please Suzaku. You want him dead, right? Be patient and we will get it over with. Issei spoke with an understanding yet serious tone, even she wanted Issei dead like the rest of Team Slashdog. Suzaku looked at her and spoke, fine, I will cool myself. Issei smiled in response. As Suzaku continued to witness her, she could see Artemis touching her stomach, as she could see the girls having a conversation using her listening device she got from Azazel. Upon closer hearing she widened her eyes, soon a grin got onto her expression. The conversation was also heard by the rest of the group as Shigyun spoke with dread. Suzaku. No, don't tell me you are going to. This is a perfect opportunity. I will send this information to the factions. With Artemis being pregnant, we can use this opportunity to take down Haidu. Suzaku spoke with a smirk, seeing this as an opportunity to finally exploit Issei's only weakness and take him down. Suzaku sent a text message to Azazel about the information she had gotten. Think about this, we can't hurt an innocent child, let alone a pregnant mother. Issei spoke with horror. This was madness, this was something they did not want to do. We won't say, even I won't go this far. Suzaku spoke shaking her head. Her intention was to use them as hostage, not harm them in any way, as she spoke, but think about it, if the factions are able to get a hold of Artemis. Then we can win this war. I don't know. This will end up badly. Shigyun spoke having a bad feeling about this, as she knew that if Issei finds out that they are planning to go after his unborn child, there will be no mercy. You're right, Shigyun. The four girls turned around to see Issei and Persephone looking at them. Fury was present in their eyes. The others were preparing a barrier to prevent any supernatural force from entering Kuo in any way, no matter if they are as strong as Surzich's. If a being above that does enter, then they will come to know. The girls had a look of horror and fear in their eyes. Issei and Persephone were beyond pissed that they had the audacity to not only spy on them, but also threaten Artemis's child. This was beyond forgivable. To think you all will go so far as to harm my unborn child, just to get back at me. To find a weakness inside of me, you will go after an innocent soul. You all are nothing but living disgraces that need to be wiped out from this world. Issei's words angered the four girls as Issei continued, this is exactly why I wants to wipe you factions out. You will even go so far as to harm an unborn child or even a pregnant mother. You factions disgust me in every way, you have no shame or guilt for what you have done when you demanded me for help. You tried everything in your power to enslave and control me, just because I had the power necessary, even after exposing Dai, many of you did not respect me in any way or even care for me. Some of you invaded my privacy with my girls, and the girls that loved Dai tried to force me to be with them. You don't deserve mercy or compassion in any way, you deserve death. Only a select few deserve mercy, but none of the factions, especially the Greek and the biblical factions, deserve mercy. Issei is right, I don't know if Shiva knows of this or any of the other Hindu gods, but I am pretty sure the others are involved, since Shiva and Indra or any of the Hindu gods did not come to Underworld earlier in the morning. Persephone spoke as the ground started to shake. She then spoke coldly, but if you dare lay a finger on my future grandchild, there will be no mercy. Persephone's words made the girls shudder. They knew they couldn't even escape knowing what is going to come next. They have no choice but to fight. Suzaku and the remaining members of Team Slashdog felt cornered seeing Issei and Persephone surrounding them. There was no escape. Persephone soon chanted an ancient Greek spell, causing the dimensions to change and a surrounding vine field to create an impenetrable barrier. How much heat can the vine field sustain? Issei asked his mother figure, to which Persephone spoke with a smile. It should last against strong flames, although not on Drag or even God-class flames, it should have enough durability. Cause I want to make their demises as painful as possible. Issei spoke with a sinister grin as he brought out 5 capsules with Team Slashdog, as he soon announced, Bayako, Genbu, Karyu, Seiryu, Suzaku, come out. Issei threw the capsules revealing the 5 sacred beasts that he had taken and captured from the god tribe during the war against them and the hero clan. This revelation stunned the Slashdog as Suzaku asked with horror, where did you get the 5 sacred beasts? Answer me. Suzaku spoke with dread in her voice, wondering just how powerful Issei really is and what he is capable of. The truth is that he's far more capable than what he is before. Are you familiar with the God Tribe and the Hero Clan? Suzaku nodded, wondering how this connected the two organizations as Issei continued. You see, it turns out upon closer research that these people cloned the 5 sacred beasts without anyone's knowledge. They created perfect and indifferentiable copies of the original, such that you wouldn't even realize whether it is from them or are they just mere clones until it is too late. And I think you know what happened to them after that, right? Issei continued with a cold tone, making the four girls realize with dread on what happened. Not only did Issei manage to find a way to bring the beasts to his side using his manipulations and tricks, but also he destroyed an entire race of heroes and dealt with their beasts accordingly. That means. Were you the one that killed the famous Jin Taoju? Issei asked with fear as Issei nodded with a smile as he continued, indeed, he was a good fighter and gave me a tough time, but once I turned the 5 sacred beasts against him, all hope was lost. Their demise was inevitable after that, and keep in mind I alone dealt with all of them, well Yusaka was only there, or should I say Siriato and Dragognazo, since now they use her as a host body. Issei's words made Suzaku the angriest, while the other girls were horrified, as she angrily growled, do you not have a heart? Doing this to a misled woman who only desired love and compassion from a true lover, you have made her life as miserable as possible. How can you be this cruel, this psychopathic? Not in this life, my former friend. Issei spoke with a shrug, as Suzaku gritted her teeth in anger, as Issei asked angrily, when will this madness of yours stop? You have already wiped out billions of supernatural creatures with your deeds. Madness? That is what they say to someone who has been fighting back the injustices that he has received. All my life, it was either the hiatus or the supernatural or the Kuo Academy students that made my life miserable. Issei angrily spoke coldly, making Issei flinch, while Persephone looked at him with a concerned look, so tell me Issei, why the hell should I stop this madness? I am only fighting back at this point, none of you chose to respect or love me, but instead you scorned and humiliated me for his crimes. And I can speak with a 100% guarantee that if Dai would have asked to kill me or torture me, you would have done it without exception or remorse. We would not. Shigyun angrily retorted, Issei's words were only making more reason, as Persephone spoke angrily, don't play coy Shigyun, you would have done that, and those leaders would have happily listened to Dai, at this point you are only in denial. Persephone raised her aura, making the humans present fearful, they are scared shitless of the god class being in front of them. Sure, she may not be as strong as her husband or even Zeus, but she is still a god class being capable of dealing some serious damage if she wanted to. There is no point in talking to them, they will be blind to what they have become, they fail to see their mistakes, and the only way to deal with them at this point is complete annihilation. Persephone nodded, she saw how hypocritical the factions are at first hand. She knew they were thanks to Issei's experiences, but now she saw how cruel and hypocritical are. Now she has no sympathy for them in any way. Well, I will take on Shigyun and Suzaku, will you be able to handle Issei and Natsume? Persephone spoke with a smile, leave it to me, Ice-chan. Issei gave a smile of his own as he responded, thanks, mom. Issei commanded the beasts to deal with Suzaku while he went for Shigyun, the reason was that her sacred gear will be a potential problem. While the beasts will deal with Suzaku. Meanwhile, Persephone was stunned by what Issei called her, as she thought with surprise, did Issei call me his mother? Persephone shook her head as she thought again, now is not the time, it is to deal with those that want to harm Issei's child. Persephone dashed towards Natsume and Issei, the girls were unprepared against a goddess who is capable of controlling plants itself, while she is not as good as her mother, Demeter is who could even control the terrain of the world, she is still strong enough to deal some serious damage if she wanted to. Back with Issei, he had his mortis blade as he slashed Shigyun at her stomach, this battle will be far more easier than dealing with Aten. Shigyun tried to bring out her sacred gear, the entity inside was named by her as Po, which took the form of a 4-horned beast wearing a mask. However, she didn't know whether the beast will even devour Issei given his power. The best feat it was capable of was when it absorbed the flames of Incinerate Anthem that was with its previous wielder Augusta, or even devour Issei's own flames. As for Issei, he was quick and elusive, he grabbed Shigyun by her hair and slammed her to the ground before she could react. Shigyun groaned in pain, Issei did not let her bring out her independent sacred gear, since it would pose problems for him. She tried to activate it, however Issei stepped on her ribcage, crushing it with ease. Before she could react, Issei stabbed her in the heart with the mortis blade, causing her to have a look of horror. She tried to reach to Issei in order to bring her sacred gear, but she soon lost conscious. She closed her eyes as a tear fell, signaling her defeat. Suzaku, who was already struggling taking on the clones of the 5 sacred beasts, muttered, no. However, before anyone could comprehend, she was sent flying by a rock slide courtesy of Koryu. She defended herself, but was slightly damaged by the rock slide. She watched Issei remove the blade from her heart as Issei walked towards her. You bastard, Suzaku shouted with anger and hatred in her voice. She summoned her vermilion bird to annihilate Issei from existence by burning him alive, however Issei only merely walked towards the flames and was barely affected by the flames. Meanwhile, angered by what happened to their master, the 5 beasts unleashed a barrage of attacks, sending Suzaku flying. She struggled to get up as she saw Issei walk across the flames unaffected. He walked towards her with a smirk as he rubbed some dust off his coat. "Seriously, is that your vermilion bird can do? Pathetic." Issei commanded the beasts as he looked at them and spoke, "Leaven the vermilion bird to me, make sure she does not intervene." The beasts roared in understanding, while Issei looked at the vermilion bird ready to destroy Issei, as he dashed towards the vermilion bird and before it could react, slammed the bird to the ground. The vermilion bird screeched in pain, as Issei soon had a thought, if my hunch is correct, these things are spirits-like beings, similar to Drake right? Alive, yet sealed. What are your thoughts, Drake? Technically you can classify them as spirits since they act more akin to souls. However, unlike us they are actually beasts with immense power, they are alive, but unlike me who is alive yet sealed. They are not sealed, so if you kill them, you will kill them for real, and their soul will head to purgatory. Issei nodded in understanding, as he brought out the mortis blade and stabbed in the head, making the vermilion bird yell in pain. "No!" Suzaku shouted with tears in her eyes, she could feel the pact with the vermilion bird breaking, with vermilion bird screaming in pain, Suzaku was helplessly watching Issei kill the vermilion bird. Now, she is soon going to be next on Issei's death list. She saw both Shigyun and her beast vermilion bird die. Issei looked at the 5 beasts as they were ready to obliterate her out of existence. Suzaku looked down in sadness and fear knowing what is about to happen. Her demise at this point is inevitable. Meanwhile, Persephone's control over plants was enough to keep the 2 girls at bay, while Natsume was using her griffin, which was an independent sacred gear just like Shigyun, while Natsume spoke angrily, for the goddess of springtime, and someone who is known to be compassionate. "You are siding with a monster that wiped many innocents out. The same innocents that were responsible for making Issei's life miserable." Persephone taunted in response, remembering the scorn and hatred many of the supernatural along with those from the human world had given him, as she continued, "They keep the blame on Daiharu, yet they fail to see what they have done. Neither apologize to Issei in any way, they keep begging for his help like a bunch of pathetic whelps, yet here they are, at least I can see that other factions have started to distance themselves from you and go into hiding." Persephone spoke with a mocking tone as she grabbed the griffin by her vines and slammed it towards the plant wall, making her yelp. Issei tried to assist her using cowardly Leo as she commanded it to breathe flames, only for Persephone to dodge it and give the Leo a punch to the stomach. The lion disappeared into the shadows and tried to ambush it from the other end, only for Persephone to cackle in response. "Did you really think you can ambush me from the ground?" Persephone used the underground vegetation to ambush Leo and before he could react pull him up. Persephone soon flung the beast in the air and towards the vine wall. "They don't call me the goddess of fertility for nothing." Persephone knew how to end the fight, she quickly sized up the vines and grabbed Issei by the throat, she dragged the girl and twirled her around multiple times as Issei started to feel dizzy. Persephone soon crushed the neck, causing the girl to stop moving and soon enough stop breathing. Cowardly Leo screamed in pain as he soon dissipated into his sacred gear, which would soon move on to the next person. Natsume charged at Persephone with anger as she commanded Griffin to eliminate the goddess, she also joined in with the onslaught, however Persephone was quick and agile, easily dodging the attacks as she was yawning being bored. This was barely a challenge to her. Persephone soon followed up with a punch aimed to the gut, she had some small level of hand-to-hand combat experience. The blow was strong enough to send the beast flying, as Natsume was sent agape. "What?" Persephone spoke with a tone of surprise. "Don't act surprised, I am a god-class being, maybe I am not strong as Zeus, but I am still strong enough to even deal with a strong Satan-class being. So, it shouldn't be surprising that I am capable of doing this." Persephone soon blitzed towards Natsume, her speed was surprisingly amazing, as she reeled with a kick aimed at her stomach, causing her to cough up. Using the vines, she quickly seized the opportunity and snapped Natsume's arms and legs, making her scream in pain. "Ah, it's over." Persephone spoke coldly as she used one vine to wrap around her neck and snap her neck, killing her immediately. Upon this, like with cowardly Leo, the griffin also screamed in pain as it was sent back to the sacred gear to its new host, thus ending her fight with the goddess of springtime. "I wonder what Ice-chan is doing." Persephone looked at Issei who was almost commanding the beasts to end the fight. She soon walked towards him, which gained Issei's attention. "I take it both Issei and Natsume are dead." Persephone gave a nod as she spoke, indeed, they were easy to deal with. Persephone looks at Suzaku and speaks, "So Shigyun is dead as well." "Indeed, her and the vermilion bird have been dealt with, and may I ask, are their bodies intact?" Persephone nodded as she soon asked, "Why?" "I'll explain later." Issei spoke as he turned to Suzaku and asked, "Any last words, Himejima, you bastard?" Suzaku growled with tears in her eyes as she continued, "Justice will one day come and will destroy everything you hold dear." "No, that is where you are wrong. Tonight is your downfall." Issei brought out Mortis blade as he pointed at her neck, although you are right about one thing, justice will one day come, and that day is today. Issei immediately decapitated her as her body soon fell down, her head fell off a few feet away from her body. But that team/dog is defeated. Issei spoke with a cold tone as the vines soon fell, signaling the battle is over. So what now? Zeus and the other leaders know about Artemis and her child. Issei only shook his head as he spoke, they won't even think about harming them in any way. I won't let that happen. What are you planning to do? Issei only gave a smile as he continued, I am sending a message. Issei then continued. Remember I asked why I needed the bodies intact. Persephone nodded as Issei responded, this message is going to be remembered by the faction leaders. Issei soon contacted Office using a magic circle and asked, Office, I want you to do a favor for me. The war is coming to an end. And I need your help to send a message to the factions and their leaders. Persephone wondered what Issei is planning to do now, as Issei had a sinister grin looking at the skies. Scene change. The underworld, 12:30 am. The faction leaders had gathered in the underworld as they had gotten the message from Suzaku that Issei has a weakness. The only one that was absent was Shiva, as he heard that they would by any means necessary defeat Issei, even taking hostages. This eventually caused Shiva to completely back out from the alliance, and when he heard that team/dog was being sent to assess the situation, he made a clear statement to not be involved in what they do, which the faction leaders had to accept by force, since the Hindu faction was one of the strongest factions, and even they don't want anything to do with this. The weakness was sensed and identified, and this brought shock to many of the people present. But horror to one of the guests in the audience, and that was Zeus. He detested Issei, and now, in his eyes, that scumbag of a dragon has gotten his daughters pregnant, the virgin goddess Artemis. He eventually became livid when he heard of what Issei had done and destroyed the table, angrily shouting, that damn dragon, I will make him pay for defiling my daughter with his accursed existence. Zeus's anger was understandable. While raising his aura, Cerziches spoke with reason, Lord Zeus, your anger is understandable, but please calm down. Getting angry here won't solve anything. Cerziches is right, we have found an opportunity to actually weaken and eliminate Haidu, we can do that. Azazel also spoke with reason, as Zeus looked at them and took a deep breath to calm himself down. You're right, we can deal with right now. So how do we go about this? Zeus spoke with a much calmer tone, as Cerziches spoke, we can use Artemis as a hostage, she is his weakness and only weakness, with her being at her pregnant state, she would be much more vulnerable. I mean, we could just capture her and demand Issei to surrender, how does that sound? Michael asked with reason, to which Zeus angrily retorted. No, there is no way I am letting my daughter carry the child of that filthy dragon, Zeus angrily demanded, to which Amaterasu spoke in agreement, I agree with Zeus, but not for the same reasons, the child your daughter carries could be a threat to not just us, but to the entire supernatural faction as well. Zeus looked at her and nodded in agreement, he knew that their future child could be a potential threat to them, even with Issei eliminated. The other leaders dreaded on what Issei and Artemis's future child is capable of. Then it is settled, once we are done dealing with Haidu, we will eliminate that child as well, we will take his girls as prisoners, then we can decide their fates. Cerziches declared as the room nodded in agreement, even Michael reluctantly agreed with them. However, just as they were about to leave, someone's voice boomed in anger. I see. So you will try to go after my little child as well. It seems like you need to be put in your place. The doors exploded, revealing a very angry Issei, alongside Malak, Vader, Grievous, Persephone and Hades. Before any of the leaders could react, Malak and Vader restrained them minus their mouths, with Hades using a specialized magic circle to weaken them. The only ones in the room that could be a problem to him are Cerziches, since none of them noticed that Shiva was absent. It seems like Shiva left you whelps to your deaths, huh? Issei spoke with a mocking tone, as the leaders gritted their teeth in anger. Cerziches then angrily demanded, you have some nerve of showing yourself here, what are you here for, you want us dead? Issei only laughed at his face as he spoke, not yet, I want to savor your demise. Cerziches. Yo, you will die, when I want to. I am actually here for something else. Issei looked at Malak, who nodded, as he released Azazel, as he asked, why did you? Issei threw a bag in front of him, as Azazel looked at it and asked, what is it? A bomb to kill us all. No, a message, open it. Azazel gulped in fear, Issei could easily kill him if he wanted to, why did he bring a bag in front of them? Open them before I finish the last remaining fallen angels of this room. Issei's cold voice made Azazel shiver in fear. He nodded in response, as he opened the bags and gagged in response, as Cerziches asked, what is in that bag? Take a look for yourself. Issei passed a bag to each of the leaders' face, as their expression had nothing but horror and terror in their eyes. Amaterasu and Cerziches gagged when they saw what was inside that bag. It was the severed heads of the remnants of Team/Dog, that being Shigyu Nenaderu, Seitauju and Natsume Minagawa, along with Suzaku Himejima. This is a message to anyone that threatens my family and loved ones. You even think about harming them in any way, and I will find wherever you are hiding, hunt you till the ends of the universe and eliminate you. Issei's words were cold, making the leaders shudder in fear. They knew that he was in control of their situation. Azazel spoke weakly after not gagging. "Why, you damned monster," says the guy who is known as the most evilest of fallen angels, as well as who actively went after my unborn child. Makes me wonder whether the real monsters are the ones in front of me. Issei spoke with a mocking tone as Azazel looked helplessly at the situation. Issei was already winning and there was nothing they can do to stop him. He has full control of them and the situation. However, there is something else I want to tell you and let you guys know. Issei spoke as he gave a call to none other than Office as a portal depicting the Ouroboros symbol showed up. "No way." Surziches spoke with horror as Office was the one that was working with Issei. Azazel then spoke with fear. "Office. You're working with him." Indeed, now there is no point in denying it anyway. And it is not just him, even Baccarat is working with Issei. Office spoke while radiating her aura. She was beyond angry when she heard Issei tell about them going after Artemis's child. She was not present at the party due to her having a small talk with Great Red, although she did give her congratulations to the couple and bless the child. "That means yo you two are helping him." Office nodded to Surzich's question as she spoke. "Indeed we are, unlike Persephone and Hades, we both are actively working to deal with you permanently. The mere fact that you tried to harm Issei's child speaks volumes on what kind of people you really are." Office growled in anger. One of the few times that Office gets angry is when someone she cares for is in danger. The leaders were shivering in fear with knowing how badly and who exactly they are up against. "Don't worry, I won't kill any of you, but I am not stopping Issei or his allies from actually killing any of you. The reason I am not killing any of you, because your fates will be decided by those that want you dead. But, the fact that you tried to harm my Issei's child will not be forgiven. One of you will lose something dear tonight." Office's words made the people present shudder as Surziches asked, "What will you do?" "I am glad you asked." Issei looked at Office and nodded as suddenly a portal opened up and a red-haired boy showed up. Surziches screamed in horror as he tried to break his restraints. It was none other than Milica's Gremory. "No, leave him alone, leave my son alone," Surziches screamed as Milica's was being held by Office. He was completely unconscious. Issei looked at Milica's as he spoke, "Your lovely son." Issei rubbed his hair and continued, "Manipulated by that whore of your sister and my asshole of a brother, such innocence ruined by people like you, and now he has to suffer. A crime which he committed thanks to being misled by the two accursed beings that were responsible for ruining my life, along with several others." Surziches gritted his teeth in anger, tears fell from his eyes. He was going to lose his son, right after losing his sister. Things were looking really grim for the supernatural factions. "Don't worry, it is going to be all over soon." Issei grabbed Milica's neck and snapped it immediately, with Surziches only looking in horror. Issei soon dropped Milica's body as he was no longer breathing. "Shame things ended like this for you, Milica's." Issei muttered as he shook his head. Sooner or later he was going to die by his hand. He looked at Surziches who had fallen unconscious upon seeing this. Not only did he lose his sister, but now his son was killed right in front of his eyes. The other leaders shuddered at what happened. They were shivering in fear at what happened, as Issei has already dealt with Milica's and killed him right in front of his father, the strongest devil. Additionally, he could easily kill them, but he chose not to. "Well, that is all. Someone should probably take care of that red-haired moron." Issei spoke with a mocking tone as the leaders gritted their teeth in fury, but they were helpless in doing anything as Issei's tone soon changed to that of a cold one. "Your days are numbered, faction leaders, soon enough, you will face your final act." Issei and his group teleported out of there, leaving the leaders completely helpless and defenseless. They knew that Issei had the power and abilities to take them down. It was really their end, their final demises. Despite this, some believed that they can still find a way to defeat Issei and end his madness once and for all. They could only hope that things go their way. Chapter 39. Fall of Olympus. The next day, Gremory Mansion, 9:30 p.m. "How is he doing?" Azazel had come into the mansion along with Michael, as they both were aware of Milica's demise, as Zeocitus came in. He was the father of Rhea's Gremory and Surzich's Lucifer. One could see his disheveled hair and bags under his eyes, implying that he was devastated when he heard the news of Milica's and Rhea's demise. He is anything but well. Zeocitus spoke weakly and sadly as he continued, "All this continued because we believed the wrong brother. And now Issei wants our blood. For our treatment towards him. Additionally, the death of Rhea's and Milica's has taken a toll on my family." Then Elena refused to come out of her room as she is weeping in sadness. Graphia was even worse, she refused to talk to anyone from the house for a while now. "And my son Surziches, he has been crying ever since Issei killed Milica's. With Rhea's dead, and now Milica's also dead, I doubt he would be able to fight in this war." Zeocidus spoke sadly as Azazel spoke with an understanding tone. We understand, Zeocidus, but if anything our days are numbered. We will have to fight sooner or later against him. Azazel is right, Lord Gremory, we will give him time to recover. Although I doubt after the stunt he pulled yesterday, he will not try anything soon enough. Zeocidus looked at him and nodded. He was aware on how bad things have been with the repeated losses in his mega corporation. Several locations had to be shut down, and there were legal lawsuits because of this. The worst part is that they don't even know where the money went since Lucas RageRevan was handling the business sector of the supernatural. However, they were unaware that he had turned against the supernatural and joined the droid faction, which would soon be revealed during their final battle. But how do we plan and stop him? Zeocidus exclaimed sadly as Azazel shook his head and responded, honestly, I don't know. But there has got to be a way that we can use. Azazel started to think for a moment, however just as they were about to do anything, Azazel suddenly got a call from the Greek faction. A voice soon spoke up, hello. Azazel, are you there? They recognized the person who was speaking on the magic circle. Hermes. Azazel spoke with a tone of surprise, as Hermes spoke, yes it is me, now is not the time for pleasantries, we are under attack. What do you mean you are under attack, Hermes? Azazel exclaimed with horror, only to realize a moment later, as he spoke angrily, that bastard, he is not giving us time to recover. Michael and Zeocidus became pale, he is eliminating them very quickly, they knew Issei was their biggest threat, and now he wants to eliminate them from existence, as he responded to Hermes, we will be coming soon. Please come, he has already taken down 60% of Olympus, none of us are able to hold on against him. Azazel gritted his teeth in anger as the communication circle went off. Michael then asked, what should we do? We must contact the Amaterasu, Olmenhold and Falbium, we must send aid to Olympus, we can't lose any more manpower that we already have lost. Azazel spoke angrily, as Michael nodded. Zeocidus did not know what to do, there was only one thing he could do. That was to prepare for the inevitable. Leviathan, outside Olympus, 2 hours ago. Issei and the armies of the droid faction were present outside of Olympus, only a few miles away. The reason was that they refused to give them a chance to recover or even protect themselves. Once we commence the attack, we will start by destroying positioning ourselves using the cloaking feature of the ships. Issei started to speak seriously, earning nods from everyone as the droids covered the fleet with a cloaking spell, making them completely invisible. Additionally, there was no presence that would have been detected until it was too late. We have already ravaged them before with a much weaker army, and now we will finish them permanently. Issei started to explain the plan, he knew Zeus and the other gods will only cause problems for them in the future. Once the ships reach their position, we will all ravage right at their center point. The gods of Olympus have been taking shelter in the main building due to the constant war. Issei explained as he continued, our goal is to wipe out everyone except for Zeus and Hestia, with Hestia we will keep her as a prisoner, but for Zeus, he will be personally tortured until he begs for death. Alright. The armies present nodded, as Artemis and Athena were the most excited for the battle up ahead. They knew that the time of Zeus has come. He and his allies will fall. Additionally, they knew that Hestia has a chance of joining Issei due to her holding the most anger towards Zeus. The ships will be teleported right at the top, I already have messed into the barrier shields with Gondal's help, so when we enter, they will presume that it is our command ship is on their side when it is not. Issei continued, although the last part had a bit of a mocking tone in it, as he spoke, once our ships are in position, we will begin an all-out assault right at their home base. They will not be ready and have a chance to be unprepared. Issei looked at Malak and asked, do you have a surveillance report on the defenses of the Greek faction? Yes, I do. Right now they are preparing, but it would take them a few hours to be ready for an all-scale invasion courtesy of us. Excellent, then we will strike them now, when they are least ready for us. With Hades being against them, our only biggest threat is Xerxes, not even the Greek gods minus Hades are on his level. I hope our ships and other droids are ready for a full-scale assault. They are supreme leader. Grievous added as he continued, they are now awaiting your orders, we should prepare ourselves to initiate the plan, is there anything else that needs to be done? Yes, the order in which we will be dealing with the gods and goddesses, there are some that can cause a slight problem like Hermes and Aphrodite, so taking them down would be a priority, I want you to deal with those too. Issei added, as he continued, given your droid physiology, you should be able to be immune to Aphrodite's charms, as well as keep up with Hermes. Leave that to me. Issei then continued, as for the rest of you, all of you except Athena, Nyx and Artemis, will be dealing with the rest of the Greek gods present minus Hestia, this includes even the minor deities and other beings that are present, it should be easy for you, right? Indeed, leave that to us. Malak spoke for everyone, as the girls and other generals nodded in agreement. Issei then spoke, Athena, Artemis, Nyx, you all are with me, we will be directly having a confrontation with the king and queen of Olympus. Once we do, here is something you should do. Show no mercy. It would be my pleasure to do so. Athena spoke with a smile, as Artemis responded, I would love to take them down, personally, so count me in. Zeus already had a fear of me for a long time, I don't mind reminding him of that fear once again in his life. Nyx spoke with a sadistic grin, she often used to let her sadistic nature get the better of her, making Issei sigh as he responded. Leave some for me too, I have to repay him for the disrespect, arrogance and coldness, as well as his callousness he showed during several occasions. Nyx nodded in understanding, she knew why Issei hated Zeus, since he was the first to oppose his decision of releasing her a long time back, even Dai did not act immediately like he did, this meant that he had something else that made Zeus seal her away. This was later found out to be fear towards the primordial goddess of darkness. Moka Moka Amak, Marana, Vader, Ingvald, Miyuki, Valerie, Lafolia, Malakota, and her Malabranch. All of you will be dealing with the outside, dealing with any minor gods and goddesses, alright. The ones called nodded in agreement as they knew that they will be still dealing with tons of minor gods and goddesses that were present in the Greek faction. The rest will be with me, Nyx, Artemis and Athena, in dealing with the Greek gods. The others understood this as they all knew that the fall of Olympus is near. Well, we should get started with the final preparations. Issei looked at Malakota as he asked, so Malakota, are the Malabranch ready for battle? Quite the contrary, we have been eager for battle, I and my Malakota have been excited for this battle. Malakota was controlling her excitement as Issei could see her tail wagging. He had a look of amusement seeing one of his subordinate act like this. Her battle maniac attitude was really something. Malakota often hid her tail from any outsiders that would see it. This was something she usually did not show to anyone aside from her Malabranch. Only Issei and some others knew about her tail, not that she minded any of her close friends and allies see it. This was only meant so that no one in the human world would see her true self. Additionally, her tail radiated her power, and since Issei wanted to keep their existence a secret when he unsealed her, she kept her tail hidden so that she wouldn't gather any unwanted attention. Very well then, we will commence the attack in a few minutes. I hope you all are ready for this. Everyone present on the ship were ready, he soon looked at the droid commander and spoke, take us in position, we will commence with an orbital bombardment. As you wish, Supreme Leader. The droid commander responded as he started to look at the panel and control the main ship as he headed into the direction of the main building. Underneath, the people could see the Greek pantheon preparing for war, with majority of the soldiers outside ready for the assault, but upon closer inspection, the number of troops are lesser than what usually have been, meaning they were still preparing. However, Issei and the others could notice the fear and dread in their faces and eyes, they knew what was going to happen, as the droid faction would come after them with brutal means. They blamed Zeus and the other leaders for their current predicament, but they had no choice but to face Issei and the droid faction. They would be hunted down and killed. They also saw minor gods and goddesses commanding the troops and training them to prepare for the inevitable invasion that would happen in a day or two. Yet, they have no clue that the invasion would happen in a few moments. Issei could see the fear in the eyes of minor gods and goddesses, even if they have an army of such beings. They can still be dealt with if you have the right source of magic and you are quick enough. Supernatural history has shown that humans are capable of defeating gods. Seeing the fear in their eyes makes me happy, I am not going to lie. Issei spoke with a slightly happier tone, he couldn't help but feel amused seeing them shiver with fear. He then continued, considering many look down upon me and now seeing that their lives are at an expiry date, which only we know and they don't. They know that their time for Armageddon has come. Now, we know they won't survive. Issei spoke with a happier tone as Moka responded, I am actually more excited when we confront Elmenhold and Valerie. From what I hear, Elmenhold was able to pull some strings such that Valerie does not get engaged to me, otherwise it would have been easier to turn her into a sleeper agent. Yeah, but I do have some beef with the damper as well. Moka added, to which Ingvald asked, why? What did she do? Like Elmenhold, she also did not want me to meet Issei, and you can thank Riaz for that. She used her friendship with the former Grimoire bishop to make sure that neither me nor my sister met with Icon for a very long time. We even had to erase his memories due to this. Moka explained to Ingvald, making her nod in understanding. She hated herself for listening to Riaz when she was rescued from Nyx, and she believed Dai's lies indirectly because of her, she was misled because of her as well. Yeah, Riaz screwed a lot of lives due to her blindly believing Dai's lies and made Issei's life miserable. Yet, she has the audacity to actually try and be with Issei despite the actions she has done. Valerie spoke with anger in her tone, as Miyuki added. Don't forget Sona, she was no better. She did not even research those rumors, and she even went so far as to make even my life miserable. Miyuki spoke angrily as she continued, I can't wait to slaughter Sona with my bare hands, she will pay for stripping my childhood away from me. Miyuki remembered the injustices she had to face when she was imprisoned in her own room due to her sisters lying to their parents about her being a threat and uncontrollable. However, in reality, it was a lie. In truth, the sisters were jealous of her power, this is why they wanted her away from society itself. Miyuki, calm yourself, your time of vengeance is soon at hand, you will destroy the Citri house yourself, and I will help you in that, okay? Issei looked at her as Miyuki started to calm down a bit, he then soon continued, however, right now, our goal is to deal with the Greek faction, you must be ready for them. Sooner or later, Sona will fall by your hands. Okay. I accept this. Miyuki spoke with a sigh, as one of the droids then spoke, gathering everyone's attention. Supreme Leader, we are in position, should we commence? The droid asked Issei, to which he looked around to see all ships were at different positions of Olympus. He looked at his generals and the girls and spoke, it's time we get ready for war, today is the day when the Greek faction falls. The army nodded in agreement, they knew that today is the day the Greek faction will fall. Scene change, Olympus building, an hour and a half before the invasion. Zeus has gathered amongst the remaining Olympians that were present, they knew they had to plan quickly against the increasing threat of the droid faction. The Olympians were already aware of Issei's turn to the droid faction and being the de facto leader of them, as well as their creator during his invasion of the Norse pantheon, which they unfortunately for them, succeeded. Worse, two goddesses turning on them completely was a staggering blow on their morale. Both Athena and Artemis held a strong grudge towards Zeus for literally selling them out, now they are as bad as Issei. What's worse, Zeus made the pregnancy of Artemis with Issei Haidou public. This caused shock and anger across majority of the gods and goddesses, with Apollo taking it the worst. The god of music was beyond livid that his sister was violated by that filthy dragon. He vowed to make Issei pay one day and eventually deal with that monster growing inside of her womb. Hera herself hated Issei. The goddess of marriage was not someone that liked harems and often frowned on them. However, she stopped interfering in other people's matters a long time ago. But with Issei, he was a special case, not only was he responsible for so much death and destruction, and now sooner or later, he is going to come for them. The other Olympians, minus Hestia and Demeter, hated Issei for impregnating Artemis, with some of them having the desire to do that to the beautiful goddess. Hephaestus was angered seeing the destruction and carnage Issei had performed. While Aphrodite and Hermes were disgusted by what Issei did, the latter being scornful towards Issei. Ares was more jealous of Issei, however, he hated the fact that he used war against them. Demeter had her reasons, she was not like the rest of the Olympians blinded by her anger to actually act against Issei. Everyone, with the war impending upon us, we need to decide on what he need to do, we must find a way to strike Issei Haidou before he does the same against us. Zeus looked at his fellow Olympians as he continued, my fellow Olympians, our past may have divided us before, but we must stand united against Issei Haidou that seeks our annihilation, but we must all stand together, this includes, not just gods, but devils, angels, fallen angels, yokai and vampires. We must stop him at all costs. But how? We don't even know his current base of operations, Brother Poseidon spoke with annoyance, his base was nowhere to be found, as Aphrodite spoke, maybe it is in his bedroom, where he. Aphrodite was cut off by an irritated Hephaestus as he angrily spoke, now is not the time for your hex jokes Aphrodite, there is a literal Armageddon heading our way any minute now, Issei Haidou wants the complete destruction of the supernatural world, so please take this seriously. Aphrodite gave a frown towards her husband, however Ares added, Hephaestus is right. Aphrodite, you need to take things seriously. Dealing with the crisis right now is something we must focus on. Oh, don't you even start Ares. Aphrodite spoke with a playful glare as she continued, after all, we do have. Aphrodite is once again cut off by someone, however it was a very pissed off Zeus, as he shouted, enough. All of you, now is not the time we need to be discussing about your personal lives, our entire existence is in danger. And this is what you are concerned about, focus on the problem at hand. Everyone. Zeus angrily demanded the Olympians to calm down, which they reluctantly did. Zeus made a deep sigh as he spoke. Now, let's get to the point, any ideas of dealing with Issei? Zeus spoke, to which Hera responded, we could capture. No Hera, we tried that, the ones that relayed the information had their heads severed and sent in a bag. Additionally, he did not stop there, he even killed Milica's right in front of his father's face, breaking the Satan Lucifer's morale. He dared us to stop him in any way. Zeus cuts her off, making Hera horrified at what happened, as she soon looked away thinking of anything, however suddenly a sound got their attention, which grew louder and louder by the second. What is that? Dionysa spoke with a half-drunken tone, as Zeus widened his eyes and exclaimed, he is already here, we need to. Zeus was not able to complete as the room was suddenly taken down by multiple missiles and explosions. The Olympians' last look was the look of fear and anger, knowing that their time has come. Back outside, there was nothing but chaos as there were several ships that were unleashing a barrage of missiles and other weaponry like bombshells and god-slaying magic explosives at the Greek pantheon. Many were trying to flee or escape the initial onslaught, as several tried to stop the ships. This was the majority of the fleet of the droid faction, with only the Death Star and the Invisible Hand being absent. The tactic they were using was orbital bombardment, which was causing massive death and destruction. Even the Malevolence was included as well, along with giant ships known as Star Destroyers. These were 3 in number. Additionally, not only were the usual army of B-1 battle droids, B-2 super battle droids, B-2 rocket troopers, BX series commando droids, Magna Guards and Drodikas, which were led by droid commanders, being deployed. There were 2 new droids that had joined the army. The first were B-3 Ultra Battle Droids. These were dirty green version of B-2 Super Battle Droids, however they were much bigger than them, at 4 meters tall. These behemoths were armed with flamethrowers and plasma cannons, as well as blaster cannons. They also were much more durable than B-2 Super Battle Droids, and there were 10 of them in the battlefield. Then there were Dark Troopers. They were equipped with 2 rocket boosters, 1 in each foot. Dark Trooper armor was capable of withstanding blaster fire. Additionally, they also were able to resist damage from Ultimate and Low Satan class devils, making up firepower of the team. They were almost on par with the super battle droids, however unlike them, they prefer close combat and rarely use weapons, only using blaster fire if the target is far away. Above Low Satan class devils could damage it, and only God class beings would be able to destroy the droid. The Dark Troopers were in numbers of hundreds, as they constantly started to bombard the Greek faction members with their blaster fire, making them take cover. Worse is that the other droids also started firing and attacking anyone they could find, massacring anyone that got in their way. Additionally, with the B-2 rocket troopers, several missiles were being sent towards the buildings and other structures, causing rubble and debris to fall on the fleeing citizens, damaging and even burying them. The B-3s decided to step in, armed with the plasma cannon. They were starting to burn down any minor Greek gods and goddesses that stepped in the way of defending their comrades. They were unprepared and not ready for the invasion that happened mere moments before. Several of them were incinerated alive as they tried to defend themselves from the plasma cannons. They screamed in pain as the droids were annihilating anyone that stood in their way. "We need to take those ships down," one of the minor gods shouted, as the ships were not stopping their bombardment, aiming at different locations throughout the location. However, just as some were about to head there, several rocket troopers had aimed their shots as they were forced to defend from their attacks. Just as they were about to retaliate, some assassin droids, attacking them from behind, stabbing them in their hearts, with the rocket troopers sending their missiles aimed at them. Seeing this, the assassin droids escape as the rocket troopers get annihilated them out of existence. The reason that they were able to damage these gods was because most of their ammunition and weapons had god-slaying magic capable of damaging them. That was why they were being eliminated and being damaged, otherwise this would have been much harder. Fear and dread were present amongst the Greek faction. They knew their day of Armageddon is near, and they fear that no one will be able to do anything about it. Back at the main Olympian building, the Olympians have fortunately survived, as they groaned in pain. The orbital bombardment at their location was the most damaging, and yet they were strong enough to survive. The building was completely destroyed, however. "That bastard," Zeus growled with anger as he looked up to see one of the fleet ships aiming its missiles at the Olympians. Upon closer inspection, it was the Leviathan. He knew that this was Issei's doing, and the battle is right now. Says the one who tried to harm an unborn child. Issei announced as a giant magic circle opened up, revealing Issei and his allies. The Olympians minus Hestia and Demeter were livid on seeing both Artemis and Athena, seeing them as nothing but traitors. "How dare you turn on us, Athena and Artemis?" Zeus angrily growled as the other Olympians minus Hestia and Demeter were livid on seeing the 2 traitors here. Issei and his allies were livid with the Athena, then retorted with her own anger, "And what live with the man who sold me to save his own skin? You were my father and you had the nerve to sell me off to someone who I didn't even know. Yet here you have the gall to call me a traitor. You were the one who abandoned and betrayed me. I am only repaying you in kind." "Athena is right, Fath." "No." Zeus. Artemis spoke with anger, with all of the Olympians minus Hestia and Demeter glaring at them. Hestia looked at Issei, hoping he would see her, which he did. He knew he had to find a way to get her out of here. Only Hestia ever visited Artemis and Athena, knowing full well she could be easily killed by Issei, as he was known to hold some grudge against Zeus, something that takes real guts and love to achieve. While Demeter wanted to know whether she could even see her daughter in the future, she hoped to at least talk to Issei before he gets to decide his fate. Additionally, he also saw Demeter, someone who hated him for his actions. He had a talk with Persephone earlier about this, and she was aware that Demeter was on his list. She knew that even if Issei were to spare her, there is a chance things might be different. The goddess of springtime couldn't watch her mother die. Issei's thoughts were snapped when Artemis had spoken something. "Ever since you gave me to Issei, I despised you for your actions. You kept blaming Issei and tried to get back at him, even when he actively placing seals on Nyx to name one of your petty actions. I followed you without exception, and this is how I was repaid. Yet you have some nerve of calling us traitors. Well, you did the same things to us. You betrayed us, so we repaid you in kind." Artemis spoke angrily as Zeus glared at Artemis. Lightning was crackling in his hands as Athena spoke. But if anything, your actions showed us that our own birth family has no care or love for us. If anything, you know who cared for us and loved us, gave us a home and a loving family. It was Issei, and I know that because he was there with us, he helped us change, he helped us become better people. The only reason you hate Issei is because he did more than what you could even possibly achieve, Athena angrily spoke as Zeus was red with anger. He was about to speak when Issei cuts him off. Choose your next words very carefully, Zeus, and don't bother pinning the blame on me like you usually do, you damn cheater god. Issei added his own words, as Zeus was beyond livid, however he was afraid, he knew what Issei is capable of, and with his whole army by his side, his chances were limited. He gritted his teeth in anger. Issei turned his attention to Demeter and Hestia as he looked at them and spoke, Demeter, Hestia. Issei's commanding voice made Demeter look surprised for a moment, while Hestia was equally confused as to why Issei had called her. He then spoke, I am giving you one chance, you two can surrender yourselves and come with us, I am giving you a choice. You can either give in and come with us, or perish here. The choice is yours. Demeter was left agape, while Hestia saw this as her chance to escape. Artemis and Athena looked at Issei and genuinely smiled, knowing that they cared for her, that was the reason why Hestia was spared. As for Demeter, he knew the only reason he was sparing her was because of Hades and Persephone. Otherwise he was planning to take her down as well. Don't you two dare betray Olympus. Zeus angrily looked at them, making the two flinch. Hestia now wanted to leave even more, while Demeter looked away, as Issei spoke with anger in his voice. Make your choice, you have my word, Zeus won't even try to harm you in any way. Although, if you choose the latter, you will perish, the choice is all yours. Issei looked at the two as he continued, Hestia is pretty obvious, Artemis and Athena care for her, so that is why I am sparing her. After all, she is the only one that had the guts to visit them. The Olympians minus Hestia lost their anger and were saddened by what Issei had told them, as several of Issei's factions scoffed at their guilt. Issei then continued, as for Demeter, I am only making this offer because of Persephone, it was her that asked me to call for you. She wanted her mother alive, and that is the only reason I want you alive. I can't make the person who loved me like her own son sad like this. So I am giving you a choice, either you can come back to your daughter who is waiting for you in the underworld, or I or one of my generals will be the one to eliminate you here tonight. Make your choice. Issei spoke seriously and coldly, leaving Demeter conflicted. Either she can be alive and reunited with her daughter that was dead for centuries, or die alone with no one to remember her in the future. The choice would be obvious to a normal person, but loyalty can force a person to perform the latter. Demeter was the only person that visited Hades when his wife passed away, but as Hades descended into madness, she stopped visiting him. However, when she heard from Zeus that Issei revived her, she was slightly grateful to the boy. But Demeter at this point was done following Zeus, she knew that he would even harm Persephone for not being loyal to him and choosing Issei. Similarly, Hestia also was done with Zeus, the man-child failed to see his mistakes after so much time and still pins the blame on Issei. Both Demeter and Hestia spoke, making their choices. I choose my daughter over Olympus, can I visit her, Lord Issei? Demeter asked with a pleading tone which earned a nod from Issei, making her smile with joy, with Hestia soon speaking, I accept your offer, I am in as well. The rest of the Olympians were left flabbergasted by this level of betrayal, while Zeus was equally shocked. Now 4 Olympians have turned on them in a span of 2 days, as it was revealed to them. Zeus in his blinding anger unleashed a bolt of lightning at them, only for Issei to dash and generate a barrier protecting the trio from the attack. I will be teleporting the two of you back to the Leviathan, you two will wait there till we are done here. Okay. Issei asked as the two goddesses nodded in understanding, using the ring in his hand, he created a portal as he spoke, step inside them, I have already telepathically told the droids, stating that the two of you are on our side. Thank you Lord Issei. Demeter spoke with gratitude as the two went away, as Issei pushed the gods back with his own telekinesis. He was able to force Zeus to cancel his attack, albeit momentarily. Now then, let's end this. Zeus. Issei looked at Zeus who was gritting his teeth, he then looked at his team and they nodded, the ones that were asked to head out left, as they were heading to destroy any survivors of the Greek pantheon. This left with only Issei himself, Malak, Grievous, Athena, Artemis, Elizabeth, Gabriel, Nyx, Quinella, Latia, Sekiruuyetei, Gondola and Charlotte. Now each of you take a pick of a god or goddess, but Zeus and Hera are reserved for me, Artemis and Athena. The others knew of their hatred for the gods mentioned, as they agreed to it. Grievous decided to take on Aphrodite and Hermes as planned, catching the two off guard, with Nyx handling Ares much to his fear, that left Dionysus, Apollo and Poseidon. Poseidon was taken on by Malak, while the rest took on the two gods. Zeus looked at Issei with anger in his eyes, he was the reason why his faction was so divided. He then spoke angrily, you were the reason why my daughters and many others have turned against me, and now I will make sure you pay. Lightning crackled in the god of thunder's arms, as Issei shook his head as he dashed towards Zeus and grabbed him by the neck and slammed him to the ground. Foolishness, Zeus, foolishness, haven't you forgotten on how I humiliated you months back when I released Nyx? Remember the haunting nightmares I had given you? Zeus gritted his teeth, of course he remembered the haunting nightmares he had given him. Zeus tried to use his lightning to zap Issei, however he remained unfazed, a level of this power was nothing to him at this point. He had become much stronger since their last encounter. Odin gave him a much more challenge as opposed to Zeus, as Issei brought out 3 sacred gears. In the process, he brought out the true spear, and he used his boosted gear, and to Zeus's surprise, Zenith Tempest, which he remembered once belonged to the deceased Julio Gesualdo. He understood this must have been a clone of the original, the perfected clone. Balance Breaker, Issei commanded, as 3 of his sacred gears transformed into its Balance Breaker state. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker, Polar Night Chakravartin, Balance Breaker. Inevitable punishment of the dragon god's fury. Issei's whole body radiates a massive amount of aura, which even makes his own allies look at him with awe, stopping their fights in the middle. This was the second time he was using 3 sacred gears at once. The first time was during his fight against Dai, and now the second. Well, the Greek gods were fearful of this, except those that were on Issei's side. Issei's body changed, it now had 12 wings, each with a dark blood red shade with black outlines at the wings. His face had changed into a more draconic one, with his body as well being more draconic. Additionally, armor started to form on his body, which was much more bulkier and draconic than before, with his wings still being present. Surrounding him were 7 orbs which were familiar to anyone that wielded the true Longinus. Let's take this somewhere else. Cheater god Issei took Zeus off to the skies, as the two fought an aerial battle. Zeus tried to use lightning to attack Issei, who only used a bubble to surround the two inside. There Issei was able to have absolute control of the weather. Zeus tried to unleash thunderstorms at Issei, but was unable to do much, as Issei diverted them back at Zeus, making him scream in pain. Is that all? I am disappointed in you. Issei spoke coldly as he blitzed towards Zeus and punched him in the stomach, making cough up saliva. He soon added even more pressure by using Lightning Slayer gloves to shock him with God Slayer magic. Zeus shouted in pain as he used his aura to push back Issei, but it only achieved a pushback of a few inches. He commanded the skies to unleash a massive hailstorm at Zeus, causing several hail shards to fall onto Zeus at remarkable speeds, causing the god to stagger. In response, Zeus unleashed a storm of lightning towards Issei as he blocked it with his armor. He followed it up by using 2 cannons that generated greenish-red energy blasts, which Zeus responded by blocking it with a magic circle. Issei quickly responded by using Penetrate, causing the barrier to be ineffective as the energy beam struck Zeus, making the god scream. Seeing this as an opportunity, Issei dashed towards Zeus as he grabbed his head and slammed Zeus's head towards his knee, slamming it. Zeus's nose was bleeding as he held it in pain. Issei was bored as he raised the Lightning Slayer gloves and raised it towards the sky. He released some lightning into the clouds, causing the thunderclouds to turn into god-slaying thunderclouds. Issei combined the Slayer properties of the Dragon Slayer gloves with Zenith Tempest to achieve this trick. It's time to end this, Yeeg. Issei pulled his hand down with the gloves as it struck Zeus, making him scream in pain. The Slayer properties of the lightning were killing Zeus, damaging his body even more, as Issei stopped after a while. He did not want to kill him, not yet at least. I would love to kill you. Issei spoke coldly as the lightning stopped. Zeus was completely destroyed. His body was smoking due to the electricity, with his body twitching with electricity. Normally electricity would strengthen or not affect Zeus, but God Slayer lightning magic was different. It harmed gods, no matter what element you control. If the god ever gets hit by Lightning Slayer magic, even if they control lightning, they can still be hurt by it. But Artemis and Athena would be the one to love to torture you. Issei spoke with a dark grin, making Zeus shiver with fear. Meanwhile, Artemis and Athena were fighting against Hera. The queen of Olympus were struggling against the two goddesses. As Artemis looked different, she now wore a black dress with green details. She wore an eye visor, as well as metal circular armor behind her. The reason was due to the ring that Issei gave her. The combined goddesses' assault made even the queen of Olympus bring to her knees. This was the Lost Bull terminal armor. She was as strong as Zeus at this point. The reason that Issei gave her this armor and power is so that she could protect the child in her uterus. She would be able to fight in this war without her child being in danger. Ready to end this, sister? Athena spoke with a smile. She was happy that the power that Issei gave her will be able to fight for this war as well as protect herself without worrying the others. It would be my pleasure. Artemis spoke with a smile of her own. Her visor started to glow even more as she charged up her bow, which now was a dark greenish beam as she exclaimed, "Shooting star Ortigia!" Artemis shouted as Hera responded with a beam of her own to defend herself. Athena decided to join with her own attack as she used her own beam blast as she exclaimed, "Take this." Hera struggled to keep up with the combined attacks as she exclaimed with anger, "First you dare to betray me, and now you try to kill me. You two have fallen. You two are no longer goddesses of Greek. We don't care what you think." Athena responded with anger in her voice as she spoke, "You made so many lives miserable, yet you did not work on your actions. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Not only did you harm my sister's child, you even tried to harm someone I love. Additionally, you failed to see your mistakes like Zeus. You are the disgrace, not us." Athena's right, "I will never let any of you near my future child. I will end anyone that dares to harm my child in any way." "Goodbye." Hera, Artemis and Athena both yelled in response as the beams from the two goddesses' beams overwhelmed Hera. As she screamed in pain, her whole body started to break down, leaving no trace of her. She soon shouted, "I damn you Athena, damn you Artemis, damn you Issei." Hera was soon completely killed, leaving no trace of her. Artemis's clothes returned to normal, and she took a deep breath to calm down. She soon looked at her ring. It had a slightly blackened color as Athena took a look at it and spoke after a while, "Artie, I think it needs to recharge for a while. I guess. I should thank Issei for this." Artemis spoke with a small blush. It was the ring that allowed her to keep up with Hera. It gave her a massive power boost. Athena smiled at the scene as Issei soon joined the scene. "So I take it Hera is dead?" Artemis nodded in understanding. As she spoke, "She hardly stood a chance against us." Athena nodded in understanding as Issei looked to notice Malak and Nyx close to completion of their fights. Malak looked apathetically at Poseidon, who had lightning wounds on his body with several lightsaber wounds as well. He was holding both Mjolnir and his light blade in his hand. Finish me." Poseidon spoke weakly. He knew sooner or later everyone else would be wiped out, soon enough, with Malak speaking while putting Mjolnir away, with pleasure. Malak started to siphon his life energy as Poseidon could feel himself dying. Soon enough his corpse fell to the ground. He was long dead as Malak could shake his head in disappointment. He soon noticed Nyx decapitate a fearful Ares, killing him as well. "That's done." Nyx and Malak noticed Issei, Athena and Artemis as Nyx asked, "Zeus and Hera?" "Zeus is imprisoned in the base. Once we are done here, we will deal with him." Issei answered to them as Malak and Nyx nodded. Artemis then spoke, "As for Hera, we made sure to kill her. There was no trace of her left." "I see." Malak spoke with a smile as Issei looked around and spoke, "The others?" Their fights forced them to head to different locations. Issei and the others nodded as he could hear a male scream as he continued to shout, "Leave me alone you monster." "I think that was Hermes." Artemis spoke with a tone of surprising, implying that even Grievous was done with their fights. They all rushed to see Grievous having killed both Aphrodite and Hermes, the latter having both of her legs chopped off, and Aphrodite having her face completely riddled with light blades wounds. The shock on her face showed that she must have been horrified to see her face. "I presume you guys are also done?" Grievous added as Artemis responded, "Geez, you could have turned down the violence, Grievous. And say, I love the screams of these supernatural scum. Anyways, let's head to the others. Apollo and Dionysus would still be a problem." The others nodded and headed there. As they did so, Dionysus and Apollo were still able to hold their own against a group that were fighting for their lives. They were evenly matched. However, when the two gods saw Issei and his group, they knew what must have happened. "That means no." Dionysus spoke with horror and fear in his voice as Gabriel and the other girls found an opportunity to strike them when they were at their weakest as they took a direct hit from the combined attacks, making them scream with pain. Apollo and Dionysus managed to recover as they saw Issei and his group walking towards them. Quinella spoke with a slightly apologetic tone, "Sorry, Issei. Couldn't take them down." "No worries, everyone's got limitations, but the fact that you two were able to take them down speaks volumes. You even managed to push two god-class beings to this limit. Not many can achieve that." Issei tried to calm them down as Quinella, Charlotte and Elizabeth all looked at Issei with a sad smile. He soon turned around to see Artemis aiming her bow at Apollo, while the others were ready to eliminate Dionysus. "So you wish to harm my lover and child? How dare you Apollo?" Apollo gritted his teeth in anger as he shouted at Issei, "You bastard, you turned her against me and defiled her with your filthy dragon seed. I will kill you, no matter what it takes. You." Artemis growled as she slammed her foot onto Apollo's hand, making him squirm in pain. Issei soon walked towards her and spoke with an assuring tone, "I got this Artie." Artemis looked at him as Issei walked towards him and grabbed Apollo by the chin as he glared at Issei with hatred in eyes. As he spoke, "Don't blame me for your sins." Apollo Hestia visited Artemis, "Why couldn't you?" "It's because you are a coward just like your father, Zeus, that is what you are." Apollo in response spat on Issei as Issei with his other hand blocked the spit as he spoke mockingly, "Never took the god of music to be the god of projection, nice." Many were ready to take down Apollo for his disrespect. Issei followed it with a staggering kick to his abdomen, completely destroying any muscles and bones at that location. Apollo coughed up hard as he looked at Issei with fear and hatred in his eyes. As he looked at the girls, finish him, I don't want to see his existence around me. It would be our pleasure. Nick spoke with a smile as Issei walked away. The girls channeled their strongest magic attack, and before Apollo could react he was covered by immense beams. He screamed in pain, unable to even curse Issei in his final moments, as there was no trace of him left. Artemis looked at the scene with slight sadness, however that only lasted for a short moment. She shook her head as she turned to the last god remaining, Dionysus. What about you? Are you going to say something insulting? Dionysus shook his head as he spoke. No, I have none. I knew Armageddon was coming due to what Zeus was doing, but I failed to oppose him in any way. If you wish to finish me, please don't stop. I have no reason to keep fighting anymore. Since Olympus is dead. Dionysus spoke sadly as Issei looked at him and spoke with a sigh. Fine, I'll make this quick. Issei looked at the girls who nodded as they unleashed a quick magic circle. Dionysus was obliterated without a trace. He did not fight back in any way. He closed his eyes accepting his fate, and once he was dead, there was nothing left. All the Olympians were either dead or on Issei's side. So what now? Gabriel asked, to which Issei responded, I will contact the others from outside. I am pretty sure that they are done with their cleanup. Once they are done, we will wipe out Olympus from this planet. There will be no Olympus once we are done. Issei's words were not denied by anyone, as they all decided to head outside to contact others that were clearing the rest or last of the gods and goddesses or other members of the Greek pantheon that may have survived. Once he came to know that all are dead, they all teleported out of there. With the army, the casualties were in the minimum, with only a few droids destroyed, no major damage to the fleet. Issei soon commenced the final bombardment at Olympus, which soon began. The bombardment went on for several minutes before it stopped when Olympus was nothing but rubble. Issei then spoke with a smile. With that, the Greek faction has fallen. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.